A rogue soldier, a month-long manhunt, a country's COVID leader in hiding, the curious case of Belgium's Jürgen Conings. Hi there, everyone, and welcome to Plain English, where we help you upgrade your English skills with current events and trending topics. I'm Jeff here in Chicago. JR is our producer, and you can find the full lesson at plainenglish.com/387. That's where you can also find, among other things, the full transcript of this audio recording. On today's lesson, the frantic search in Belgium for a rogue soldier who stole military weapons and threatened to kill top government officials, including the country's leading virologist. It all started in mid-May and ended just over a month later. In the second half of today's lesson, I'll explain how to use the English phrase swept up in, and JR has a song of the week. Let's get going. A soldier in the Belgian army stole weapons, threatened the country's government officials, including its top virologist, and disappeared, setting off a massive manhunt. After 35 days, the soldier's body was found in the woods. He had committed suicide, and the country breathed a collective sigh of relief. Jürgen Conings was a 46-year-old shooting instructor in the Belgian army. Fed up with the country's strict response to COVID-19 and swept up in online conspiracy theories, he disappeared from an army base on May 17th and left threatening letters behind. In those letters, he said that he would begin to disobey the country's anti-pandemic measures, and he threatened violence against the government, the army, and the country's virologists. Specifically, he said he would kill health experts and politicians. He packed his Audi SUV full of stolen weapons, including 4 rocket launchers, a submachine gun, a semi-automatic pistol, several grenades, and a bunch of ammunition, and then drove off. From there, he went to the personal residence of Mark van Ranst, Belgium's top virologist and the public face of the country's pandemic response. He scouted Van Ranst's house, but he didn't find him there. After 2 hours, he left and just disappeared. So Belgium decided to move Van Ranst to a safe house, a secret and heavily guarded place where he and his family could stay safe in hiding. The next day, May 18th, Conings, now on the run from authorities, left his military medals at the gravestone of his parents. He abandoned his car and booby-trapped the 4 rocket launchers to the vehicle, meaning that they, and thus the car, were set to explode when found. Government agents found the car and successfully disarmed the rocket launchers before they could explode, but there were very few clues as to Conings' whereabouts. Therefore, the Belgian government launched a massive manhunt. A highly skilled shooting instructor was on the run, heavily armed and threatening the government's civilian leaders, so something had to be done to locate him. Conings was believed to have escaped into the Hodge-Kempen National Park armed with the remaining weapons he had stolen. The government considered him to be extremely dangerous. In a letter to his girlfriend, Conings said that he would not give up without a fight. He said that the government had taken everything away from him, and so he didn't care whether he died or not. The national park was closed for 4 days while the army conducted massive sweeps of the wilderness. No luck. The search widened with the help of police from Germany, Luxembourg, and the Netherlands. Police searched Conings' house and the houses of other far-right conspiracy theorists, all to no avail. In a routine search near where Conings had abandoned his car, police found a backpack full of ammunition. Some of what they found suggested he had weapons over and above what he had stolen from the Army depot. That was on June 9th, more than 3 weeks after he first disappeared. The government employed helicopters, armored vehicles, soldiers, police officers, and assistants from nearby countries in the manhunt. In the end, he was found by the mayor of a rural city out for a bicycle ride. The mayor stopped when he smelled a decaying body. A hunter in the same area said that he had tripped over Conings' foot that same morning, but hadn't realized it. The next day, government officials confirmed that Conings died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound and that he had committed suicide. Alongside firearms, police found an axe, a knife, and a machete. Police said his body was in an advanced stage of decomposition and believed that he had already been dead for between 1 and 4 weeks. His body was found near where he had abandoned his car. With the hunt for the rogue soldier over, the investigation into how this could have happened in the first place began. Jürgen Conings was well known to Belgian authorities even before he went rogue. He had been an elite soldier and a skilled sniper. He had 30 years of experience as an expert marksman, a soldier who can shoot accurately and lethally. Somehow, he got swept up in far-right conspiracy theories and targeted Mark Van Ranst, the company's top virologist. He had gone to Van Ranst's personal residence once before in 2020, waiting for Van Ranst to come home from work. What he didn't know is that the virologist was already home. It was his first afternoon off since the pandemic had begun 16 months earlier. As a result of that behavior, plus other racist comments and threats, he was disciplined and removed from his post as a shooting instructor. He lost his security clearance and was placed on a terrorist watch list. Now just guess what his new job became. Army weapons bearer. That's right, having established himself as a threat to government officials, Conings was placed in charge of a weapons depot. Make sense? I expected better of Belgium. Belgium is the seat of the European Union, and they placed a sniper on a terrorist watch list in charge of giving out army ammunition. What a crazy situation. And how about that virologist? About a year ago, we did a lesson about how countries' top virologists were becoming must-see television. Well, he was their version of America's Dr. Fauci. He was their Christian Drosten and Massimo Galli, too. And in the middle of fighting the virus, which is still not yet conquered in Belgium, he and his wife and his 12-year-old child had to move to a safe house. It's hard enough to fight this pandemic without having to do it from a safe house with your life on the line. I'm glad he's okay. I still think I'd sleep with one eye open, though, if I were in that situation. Today's expression is swept up. Now, before I tell you how I mean it in this context, I'm going to give you the literal definition of sweep up. When you sweep, you push a broom over your floors, you collect the dust and debris all together in a dustpan, and you throw it out. We use the phrasal verb sweep up to talk about the act of sweeping and cleaning a mess on your floors. After I get my hair cut, my stylist sweeps up around the chair to collect the fallen strands before I pay at the counter, like that. Well, earlier in today's lesson, I said that Jürgen Conings got swept up in far-right online extremism and conspiracy theories. I'm using the phrase to describe a person, and I'm using it in the past tense. We always say a person was swept up in or got swept up in something. Well, in this case, what I mean is that he was carried by the momentum of something bigger than himself. He was online and got absorbed in some extremist politics. Many people see that stuff and reject it. Some people see that stuff and agree with it, or agree with just some of it, and they still live a normal life. But others get swept up in it, and that stuff dominates their life. These people see online conspiracies, and they spend their entire day online reading and writing about them. They let it dominate their lives and their thoughts. They get swept up in it. And that appears to be what happened with Jürgen Conings. He had a 30-year career in the Belgian army. He was good at what he did. He wasn't always involved in these sorts of things, but he got swept up in the extremist online lifestyle, so much so that he threatened government officials and was placed on a terrorist watch list even before going rogue. Well, let's think of some other examples where there's excitement, emotion, and we just allow ourselves to be swept up in something. After big sports championship games, the fans in the stadium sometimes storm onto the field to celebrate. That's not allowed. That's illegal. People who would otherwise not do things like that get swept up in the excitement and storm the field. Outside the stadium, the same thing happens. It's normal for fans to celebrate, to honk horns, to maybe run into the street, to have a few drinks. But some people get swept up in the excitement and they lose their heads. They climb lampposts. They turn over cars. They get swept up in the excitement. They allow the momentum of the celebrations to take over. You can also say you got swept up in the moment. That means you're swept up in the excitement of the moment, of what's happening at the time. You can get swept up in an argument. That has happened to me before. I mentioned that I'm the president of a condominium association. The arguments are as fierce as they are petty, let me tell you. And I have made the mistake of getting swept up in personal arguments between the neighbors in my building. Neighbors are having a passionate argument. I'm trying to stay out of it. I know it's not good for me to take sides. I'm supposed to be neutral. I'm supposed to be the leader. But somehow, and I'm not trying to, somehow I get swept up in the argument. I get involved. It's a big, unstoppable force, and I'm trying to avoid it. But despite my best efforts, I get swept up in the argument. I get involved in it somehow. Kids can get swept up in the wrong crowd. That's true if there's a crowd of kids into drugs, illegal behavior, things like that. Other kids might not be able to resist getting involved. They weren't all brought up to be into drugs and illegal activity, but they got swept up in the wrong crowd. You can also use swept up in if you accidentally got involved in something because of where you happen to be. I was walking around downtown Chicago a few weeks ago and got swept up in a parade downtown. Now, I didn't know there was a parade. I wasn't trying to join it. I was trying to cross the street. But I got swept up in the parade. I was a part of it, whether I wanted to be or not. When you use swept up in, you are, in some small way, excusing the person for their behavior. You're assigning at least some of the blame to the external force. Jürgen Conings is definitely responsible for what he did, but the momentum of the online conspiracy theories and extremism should share at least some of the responsibility. JR's song of the week is Country Lanes by the Bee Gees. Country lanes, in this case, means a quiet road far from the city, usually through farmlands or the woods. Walking alone on country lanes is about having a quiet walk by yourself with few cars and no other people. And that song is from 1975, toward the end of the Bee Gees' career. Country Lanes is today's Song of the Week, thanks to JR. And that's all for today's lesson. Remember, we're here every Monday and Thursday. Quick tip for those of you who are Plain English Plus members. Your membership includes the fast version of this lesson. And that's where I read this full lesson exactly the way I would to a fellow native English speaker. No cheating, no pauses, no slow pronunciation, nothing like that. The fast version is available on our website right next to the slow version, but you can also get the fast version downloaded directly to a podcast app like Apple Podcasts or Google Podcasts so that you can listen safely in the car or on the go. Right when you sign up for Plain English Plus, you'll get an email with instructions on how to set that up. If you don't have them, just send me a note from your dashboard and I'll show you how to find them. If you're not yet a member of Plain English Plus, you can join us by visiting plainenglish.com/plus. You'll learn all about the membership and all the ways to continue improving your English skills with us. plainenglish.com/plus. We'll be back next week with 2 more lessons. See you then.